how to survive a bad boss. I think we've all been there. We work with that person who's either just not a good boss and somehow some genius promoted them, or they started the company and there's nothing we can do about it. Or maybe it's just a supervisor who doesn't speak our language. There's some sort of friction. But if you value your job, if you need your job, if you want to keep your job and survive this bad boss of yours, there are 5 key things that you need to put into practice right now that can make your life easier. You might not solve the problem in one day, but would you like to make it easier starting right now? That is what I'm giving you today. My top 5 things that you can start doing right now to make your life easier and even improve your relationship with your bad boss, no matter how terrible they are. That is what you're getting today, so stick around.
GILD Coaching. More success, less stress.
I know that feeling. It's about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe you make it to 4. The day before you have to go back to work from a weekend off or a day off, and you just get that pit in your stomach and you don't want to go. The reason? You've got a really bad boss and you don't want to deal with this person again. You know what your job is. You know how to do it. You know that you're good at it, but this person just makes everything just a little bit more difficult, sort of makes things a little impossible for you. Well, not anymore, because you are getting my top 5 keys to surviving a bad boss, and not just surviving a bad boss, thriving under the management of a bad boss or a bad manager or a bad supervisor. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. If you're taking notes with pen and paper, fantastic, do that. It helps increase your learning. If you don't have pen and paper, open up the comments section here on this video, say hey to me, type in some notes. They're gonna be here. You can come back and look at them later. You'll have the description of this video with a few notes in it, and then the ones that you've taken. It's gonna help you retain the information longer. Okay, so go ahead and do that now. Open up the comments. Number 1, key number 1, and I want you to type this in. Motivation. The word motivation. You've got to know what your boss's motivation is. Maybe there's some sort of friction between you guys. You just rub each other the wrong way. That's fine. You can really get along with this person anyway. You have to know what their motivation is. If you can figure out the person's motivation, then you can design your communication, the way that you interact with this person, your outward words, tone, actions, timing. You can design all of this to best match your boss's motivation just by making a few changes here. Your perception, your thought processes, your habits, the things that you're going to progress with down the road, you can help that person feel more confident in you, more comfortable with you, and you can meet that person's needs, kind of head them off at the pass just a little bit so that they will get back. So number 1, got to know your boss's motivation. So write that down. Know what their motivation is. Number 2, you know what your job is. If you don't know what your job is, you need to get a very, very defined job description. You need to understand what your day-to-day, weekly, monthly, quarterly expectations are. Know what your job is and do it. Document that you've done it. You don't have to make, a huge manifesto or anything, but just your goals and the achievements attached to those goals. Do your job. Many times people come to me and they say, oh, my boss is just terrible. But then we figure out that along the way, they haven't really done everything that they were supposed to do. And so the boss might think that they're terrible, not bad enough to sever the relationship. But if you are doing your job, you really have nothing to fear about the bad boss, because you can always come back and say, look, results. Results speak volumes, even more than personality conflicts, if that's the reason that your boss situation is not the best. Number 3, you need to stay one step ahead. For this, we're going to look behind us. What does your boss always want? What are the things that your boss always asks for? What are some of the demands that come fairly regularly? What are the words or phrases that this person continually uses? I recently worked with someone, and this person's boss is a terrible communicator, but this person owns the company, and there's kind of no other place for this client of mine to go as far as complaining about the boss. So she's a little bit stuck, so she has to figure out a way to work with this person. So this is a key, and write this down: one step ahead. You've got to stay one step ahead of the person. So we've looked at all these phrases and things and seen different patterns in the boss. And when you see those patterns, they allow you to stay one step ahead. So if you know that something's coming down the pipe, or you see a similar situation forming now than what happened 3 months ago, you can say, okay, well, what happened 3 months ago? This, and this. Let me just go ahead and get that stuff prepped, so that you always seem to know what's coming. And then that can increase your effectiveness. It can increase that, knowing your job and having that proof is in the pudding, as they say, and staying one step ahead. Number 4, and this is a big one. I want you to write it down, all capital letters, underline it, bold it: boundaries. You have to have your boundaries. A lot of times people who are in leadership positions have pretty big egos, and sometimes they're blind to that and they can't get out from behind it. So they'll cross your boundaries. This is the type of boss that always walks in right at the end of the day and gives you this huge thing and says that I need it immediately, so you have to stay late. This is the person that constantly reaches out on your days off, that doesn't respect your vacation time. You have to have boundaries. Now, I want you to check out the video description and follow the link to our Freedom by Design program, because that will help you create personal boundaries that are healthy, that cultivate positive relationships throughout your life. And you can learn more about it there through that link that we put in the video description for you. Speaking of the video description here, we always have a ton of links, freebies, all sorts of things for you. So make sure that you check that out. But first, number 5, I promised you my top 5 ways to survive a bad boss. This one really gets inside your boss's head, and it reduces confusion. Confusion is such a cancer in the workplace, and so few people will actually use this tool. And this tool isn't necessarily from the book of executive coaching that I've been using for years and years with our executive clients. This is really from the pages of couples counseling. And it's just a relationship tool. You can use it with anyone. You can use it with a boss, with a friend, with a spouse, partner, significant other, child, anyone. What you do is, whenever you have a conversation with this person, you repeat back to them what they just said. Ask them if it's okay for you to phrase it in your own words to clarify that you understood it correctly. So if, let's say, for example, if your boss hands you a huge project at 4:55 p.m. and says this is due by 6, you can say, okay, let me just repeat back to you what I just heard. You're giving me this, it's huge, and it's due in 1 hour and 5 minutes. Is that accurate? Oh, well, maybe, I'd really like to see a rough draft, but it's really not due till next week. Okay, great. Well, it's 4:55. Can we negotiate a different deadline for me? So when you repeat back to them something especially something that's just ridiculous, all of a sudden they hear it. They didn't hear it in that way the first time that they said it. So repeating back to someone the exact quote that they said, and then if you need to clarify it with your paraphrase of your understanding, that is a relationship godsend, because it really does help to clarify all sorts of things, and it helps the person who said this big thing that may be a bit much to understand that it's over the line. If this has been of help to you at all, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you learn the next time that we drop a video to help you live a life with less stress and more success. See you next time.